بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق وأعز المرسلين، حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين، سيما بقية الله روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء. قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون، وسلام على المرسلين، آمنا بالله، صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Dear mu'mineen and mu'minat, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our efforts in this holy month, sacred month of the Hijjah. Those who made it to Hajj, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from them and bring them back to their homes safe and sound with an accepted Hajj and answered prayers, inshaAllah, forgiven and answered their prayers. And those who did not make it, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant all of us the opportunity to go if we have not been, and to go again if we have been, and perform this great ritual of Hajj. However, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to write us amongst the Hujjaj regardless of the physical journey. Whether we made it there physically or not is indifferent. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can accept the intention of some who have not made it, and yet some who actually do make it physically, their Hajj may not be accepted. We pray that those who made the effort and had the good intentions, that they will be accepted, and we pray that we are with them, inshaAllah. Man ahabba amala qawmin, in the hadith that is narrated by Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, he says that he learned from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that whoever loves the action of a people, he would be their partner. If we love the action of those who are in Hajj, doing their Hajj, and we would have loved to be with them, we would be inshallah their partner. Also in this month we have some important occasions, especially Eid al-Adha and Eid al-Ghadir, and there is Eid al-Mubahala, a day where the believers were victorious in a challenge that came by the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala between the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and some Christians of an area known as Najran. All of these occasions happened in this month, a great month. There is a narration that we are based on that, remembering Imam Al Hadi alayhi salam, that he was also born on the 15th of this month, Al Hijjah. Although the stronger narration, which is supported by the dua, is that he was born in the month of Rajab. The dua that is authentic, that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the two born in Rajab. Allahumma anni as'aluka bil mawludayn fi Rajab. This dua, which is from the Nahiya, from the Imam of our time, Ajjalallah ta'ala farajahu al-sharif, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, kind of confirms the birth of Imam Al Hadi alayhi salam in the month of Rajab, and that's another narration. The dua says, Muhammad ibn Ali al-Thani, meaning Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam. The first Muhammad ibn Ali is Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam, and the second one is Muhammad ibn Ali al-Thani, meaning al-Jawad alayhi salam. وابنه Ali ibn Muhammad al-Muntajab. The Imam calls him the Muntajab, the special chosen one from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he is suggested in that ziyarah to be born in Rajab, al-Mawludayn fi Rajab. In any case, we remember the Imams in any given occasion. There is a narration, we try and remember them. It's an opportunity for us to learn from them. That's the most important thing. It is not just to remember them and, as some may say, chakapari. That's not what we do, and that's not the purpose of it. We remember their birthdays in order to remember them and their words and lessons from them, inshaAllah. The lesson that I want to gain from the Imam and make it a gift to the mu'mineen and mu'minat on this night from Imam Al Hadi alayhi salam is very, very well related to one of the occasions of this month, which is day of Ghadir. Eid al-Ghadir is in fact the greater of the ayat. When they asked Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, is there a Eid for the believers besides Jum'ah and Eid al-Adha and al-Fitr? The Imam says there's a greater one. And he said that is Eid al-Ghadir. Some people question, do we have another Eid? There are some scholars who try to be accommodating to the Muslim Ummah in general, or to the majority of Muslim Ummah, and suggest that we have the two ayat, and that's basically they suffice with that. Nevertheless, if we refer to the riwayat from Ahlul Bayt, we'll find that we have other ayat as well. And Eid is a day that is an opportunity from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us to return to Him. And so there are more than one occasion, more than 3 occasions, and more than just those 2 days in the year and 1 day in the week, frequency of the ayat. Yawm Arafah is Eid in itself, is an opportunity to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a great opportunity to purify. The day of Arafah, Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, who is accepted as the most knowledgeable and pious man of his time by all Muslims, Sunni and Shia. He saw somebody on the day of Arafah acting a little desperate, or having some despair, sorry, the term I'm using, I meant to use. Having some despair, questioning whether or not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive. And the Imam salawatullah wa salamu alayhi, he said, do you not realize what day this is? And then he started describing the day of Arafah. If we think of Ahyad as an opportunity to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this hadith itself tells us that Yawm Arafah, the day of Arafah, is a great opportunity. Could be even a greater opportunity than the next day, being the Eid al-Adha. And in fact, if you reflect on what happens on the day of Arafah, so many people are in the state of fasting, and so many, especially followers and lovers of Ahlul Bayt, are in the state of supplications and special supplications, connecting with God through the words of the infallible ones, salawatullah wa salamu alayhim ajma'een. This is a return. The day of Ghadir, yes, in normal a'yad we do not fast, meaning which ones? Eid al-Adha and Eid al-Fitr. It is forbidden to fast, yes? So somebody says, why is it recommended to fast on Eid al-Ghadir? The response to these people is very simple. In fact, in the mainstream Muslim Sunni schools, they consider one of the recommended days of fasting is Jum'ah. Isn't Jum'ah Eid? It is. All Muslims consider it as Eid. And it's also recommended for them to fast. Although in the school of Ahlul Bayt, the focus on the weekdays is Monday and Thursday, according to riwayat. Monday and Thursday are very recommended to fast. Can I fast on a Friday? Yes, you can fast on a Friday. Is it recommended to fast? It's recommended to fast every day, in fact, if you can, except again the A'yad, Eid al-Adha and Eid al-Fitr, for a reason. Does it make Eid al-Ghadir less significant because it's recommended to fast on that day? Of course it does not. Is it not an opportunity to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It definitely is one of the greatest opportunities to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to return to Him through the ones who show us the way, who are able to show us the way. Some may say, why don't you just talk to God directly? Why do you need wasila? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us you need wasila. And I have said this many times, when He tells us اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, what does He say next afterwards? صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم, the path of those whom you have blessed, bestowed your blessings upon. Those meaning a certain type of people, and He tells us in the Holy Quran who they are. Therefore He wants us to come to Him through a certain type of people. The best one amongst them is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, by far. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. The best man who introduced us to God and introduced God to us and introduced us to the path towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, by far. The one who comes next to him, literally next to him, confirmed in Eid al-Mubahala, yes, in Ayatul Mubahala, as Nafs Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, is none other than Imam Ali alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. And he is appointed for the believers as the path to God after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam on the day of Ghadir. Therefore, that day becomes a great opportunity for humanity to find their way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِلَّا مَنْ شَاءَ أَن يَتَّخِذَ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِ سَبِيلًا. You want to find a way to God? You need to love the Prophet and his family. After Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who is the way? Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullah wa salamu alayh, appointed and confirmed on the day of Ghadir. The gift I want to share with you from Imam Al Hadi alayhi salam is a ziyarah known as a ziyarah al-Ghadiriyah. It's a special ziyarah of Imam Ali alayhi salam on the day of Ghadir, with a very strong narration, strong chain of narrators, one of the strongest you could imagine, from Imam Al Hadi alayhi salam, from his son Imam Al Askari. And the chain is the strongest of the chains of narrators, Ziyara al-Ghadiriyah. There are two ziyaras that we have access to today from Imam Al Hadi alayhi salam. One confirms the status of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt in general, the Prophet and his family in general, confirms their status and their position and what we owe them in terms of obedience and humbling ourselves towards them. And that is Ziyarat al-Jami'ah. الزيارة الجامعة الكبيرة is from Imam Al Hadi alayhi salam. I urge mu'mineen and mu'minat to read and reflect on this ziyarah. And the second ziyarah from Imam Al Hadi alayhi salam is a ziyarah al-Ghadiriyah. It is a recommended ziyarah on the day of Ghadir. Visiting who? Saying salam to who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I began with the ayah Salamun ala al-Mursaleen. If you recite Surah As-Saffat, in Surah As-Saffat, which is recommended to recite on a daily basis, and especially on a Friday, and is recommended to recite together with Surah Yasin. When you recite Yasin, then you recite As-Saffat. In fact, some know them as Yasin and Saffat. You know, some have the printing of the short, printing of the surahs. They have Yasin and Saffat next to each other, and some recite them frequently together. And it's very recommended to recite Surah As-Saffat frequently. Teach us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, teach us to give salam to Anbiya al-Mursaleen, different prophets. Salamun ala Ali Ibrahim, Salamun ala Ilyasin, Salamun. Salam in this surah repeated, and Salamun ala al-Mursaleen, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. That's the recommended. I didn't recite that part at the beginning so that nobody thinks the gathering is over. Because in the riwayah, if you want to finish a gathering, you recite Subhana Rabbika Rabbil Izzati Amma Yasifun wa Salamun ala al-Mursaleen walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. It's over, but it's not over now. Or do you want it to be? Inshallah, I won't be much longer, inshallah. Ziyarah is in the Quran. Ziyarah is to say salam. If we're able to go to the places that are blessed by these individuals and say salam from nearby, it's even better. So ziyarah is general, to give salam to them, to acknowledge their contributions to humanity, their contributions to insaniyah. This is ziyarah. We go and visit Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Why? Because he is the best man who walked on earth and taught us human beings how to be the best type of human beings that we could be, the best kind. He was the mercy to the world, and he taught us how to be a merciful individual to everything around us. And that's how he was in practice, and his words and his teachings. Salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. So everyone who goes to Hajj, we're speaking about people who are in Hajj, yes? Everyone who goes to Hajj goes to ziyarah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Their Hajj is incomplete. I'm not speaking on a jurisprudential level. There are certain things that could be complete jurisprudentially, fiqhiyan, in terms of the physical structure. But in terms of the spirit of it, is incomplete. I'll give you an example. If I perform a proper wudu, physically, and perform a proper salat, I pray my salat, from takbiratul ihram, I do adhan, iqama, takbiratul ihram, and recite all correct until the end of salat, when I give my salam, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I finish my salat. That salat, on a jurisprudential level, if I do everything correctly, is it accepted? Jurisprudentially, fiqhiyan, yes. What if I was not thinking about anything that I did or said? I was on autopilot the entire time. Would my salat be accepted? It's not. Do I have to repeat it? No. Jurisprudentially, fiqhiyan, that salat. But in terms of the spirit of that salat, it's not accepted. It is in fact almost like smashed back onto my head in the hadith. It's like, what is this? What kind of offering are you giving to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, supposedly talking to God, when your mind is everywhere else but speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You see now, on the surface, everything is good, but the core, empty. You go to Hajj, perform all the a'mal, rituals, on the shells basically, the outer shells, the outer layers. If you are not focused and you do not understand what you're doing, that Hajj is not going to get us anywhere. That's the reality of it. Yeah, similar to the Salat. What are the conditions that help us complete our Hajj? Is ziyarah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. And this is confirmed not just by the school of Ahlul Bayt, Sunni and Shia, except a school that is trying to change that, but did not work. No matter how much they tried, they will never be able to. You know why? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guaranteed and promised the Prophet that he will raise his name. وَرَفَعْنَا لَكَ ذِكْرَكَ. God is guaranteeing, I am raising your name. It's going to become more and more popular and loved and famous day after day, all the way until the day of judgment. That's a promise, godly promise. It is happening. So no matter how much they try, they can never strip Muslims. In fact, they can never strip humanity from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Interestingly, there was a book written about the 100 most influential characters in history. I can't remember the author's name, but it's some of you may know, or many of you may have read the book or read about the book. The number one individual in that book is Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Therefore, ziyarah is what completes Hajj. The Hajj is not complete without ziyarah. Ziyarah is a Quranic concept, is an Islamic concept. Anybody who doesn't understand it does not understand Quran and the tenets of Islam. It is to connect with those who الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ صِرَاطَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ. Ziyarah is to be with them, to get closer to them, so I can be like them. I love them, I give salam to them, I learn about them, and I want to be with them. Imam Al Hadi alayhi salam, he has two ziyarat, famous, one ziyarat al-jami'ah, one al-ziyara al-ghadiriyah. In al-ziyara al-ghadiriyah, he is visiting who? Giving salam to who? To the one appointed on the day of Ghadir, none other than Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi afdal al-salawat wa tahiyyat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. I encourage and urge mu'mineen and mu'minat to read this ziyarah, especially on the coming day of Ghadir. But don't just read the words without understanding and reflecting on them. This ziyarah gives a number of the ayat. Some 30 ayat gives reference to 30 ayat from the Holy Quran that were revealed about the character, the noble character of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi afdal al-salawat wa tahiyyat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Imam Al Hadi alayhi salam is teaching us about his great-grandfather and the successor of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Al-Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Therefore, he states a number of the ayat, some 30 ayat in the fada'il, the virtues of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Then he goes to the ahadith. He goes through ahadith that are authentic and accepted. The Imam knows very well what the other schools, other Muslim schools are familiar with and accept. Therefore, he states the fada'il, the virtues of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam that are accepted and have been stated in narrations that are basically both schools, and especially the school of the Sunni school and other schools, the schools of the Khulafa, have accepted. And he states those ahadith, or the virtues through those ahadith about Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. Some of the titles, obviously, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Sayyid al-Wasiyyin, Warith ilm al-Nabiyyin. He is the master of the successors. Sayyid, for everything is a Sayyid. This is a riwayah from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He says everything has a master, has the top, the highest, the peak. The master of all the prophets is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. He says the master of all successors is Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. Sayyid al-Wasiyyin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Does that make him higher than Anbiya? If Yusha was the wasi of Musa alayhi salam, yes? Yusha was a prophet, was he not? If his master is Ali ibn Abi Talib, is he higher than prophets? Based on the statement of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Why do we have problems? If our prophet is the highest, because our nation is the highest, therefore his wasi is the highest of awsiya. There's no doubt. Sayyid al-Wasiyyin. إمام المتقين يعسوب المؤمنين قائد الغر المحجلين أول من صدق بما أنزل الله على نبيه. The first who testified and accepted what God revealed to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. All of these are titles that Imam Al Hadi alayhi salam states in his ziyarah of. Another one, Safirullah fi khalqih. He's the ambassador of God in the people, amongst the people. God's ambassador. He is the real Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He goes through some of the historic accounts and the virtues that are mentioned in the history in the ziyarah. So the Imam salawatullah wa salamu alayhi speaks about some of the sacrifices of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, like the night where, and he narrates them in that ziyarah through their ayat. For example, he mentions the fact that he slept in the place of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Laylatul Mabit. He speaks about the battle of Badr. He speaks about the battle of Ahzab and the position and the virtues of Amir al-Mu'mineen in these battles. And we, inshallah, we're familiar with them. If not, refer to them. He speaks about the battle of Hunayn, Siffin, and then he goes on to go to Siffin, Jamal al-Nahrawan, because of, again, through ayat and riwayat. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam confirmed that, Ya Ali, you will be fighting al-Nakithin wal-Qasitin wal-Mariqin. And these are the ones from Siffin and Jamal al-Nahrawan. Yes? These are titles given in the Quran that the Prophet interpreted as the ones who would be fighting Imam Ali alayhi salam after the departure of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. These are confirmed again by Imam Al Hadi alayhi salam. Many other historic accounts that the Imam salawatullah wa salamu alayhi refers to about the virtues of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Historically, again confirmed in the Quran. And he also, the Imam, also in this ziyarah refers to the story of Fadak in the same ziyarah, and how they usurped the right of Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and how we should be dissociating with those who were displaying animosity for the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, especially the ones who contributed and were partners and participated in the story of Karbala, introducing Muharram and Karbala in the ziyarah of Ghadir, the day of Ghadir, as it's coming. Shortly afterwards is the majalis of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. So the Imam also introduces the issue of dissociating with the enemies of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He also gives reference to some of those who were martyred with Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Besides obviously his children, he gives reference to the martyrdom of Ammar, for example. Ammar ibn Yasir, one of the greatest companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who was confirmed by the Prophet that you will be a martyr and that you will be killed by the transgressors. تَقْتُلُكَ الْفِئَةُ الْبَاغِيَةُ. And who killed him? It was none other than the cursed Muawiyah in the battle of Siffin. And then they twisted that by saying that, well, the one who brought him out to the battlefield is the one who killed him. Such a twist that obviously the enemies of God are always looking for such twists. Again, the ziyarah is very rich and very authentic. It is very important for mu'mineen and mu'minat to recite these ziyarat. These lessons, these are lessons. Perhaps Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam taught his lessons in his supplications, in the format of dua. He was not able to give lessons in terms of classes and teachings because he was banned at the time by Bani Umayyah. Therefore, he started giving lessons through dua, supplication. Imam Al Hadi alayhi salam, during his time, it was difficult for him to give lessons again and have open classes and so on. None of that was allowed. They were not allowing him. He gave a lot of the lessons that he gave through the ziyarat that he narrated the ziyarat. Especially, we're speaking about lessons not in general. He has, for instance, when it comes to Tawheed, he has given many narrations in the topic of Tawheed, in the topic of Jabr and Tafweed. You know, whether we are in the state of whether we have the free will, or whether we are controlled somehow by God, that we have no free will. God knows everything doesn't mean that we have no free will, doesn't mean that whatever He decides happens without our will in the matter, without our decisions in the matter. Obviously whatever God decides happens. How does it work? The Imam explained it. So there are so many hadith from the Imam salawatullah wa salam alayhi on various topics. However, when it comes to wilayah and the issue of successorship and Ahlul Bayt, their status, and the imamah, the imams were not able to speak about it because obviously Bani Umayyah would not want it, the Khulafa at the time would not want it. Therefore, he put it in a format of ziyarah. One was ziyarat al-jami'ah, and one was ziyarah al-ghadiriyah. Inshallah, we accept this gift from Imam Al Hadi alayhi salam, and we recite this ziyarah with reflection, deep reflection on the day of Ghadir, and connect with Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi afdalu salawat wa tahiyyat, and the Imams of Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim ajma'een. I promise that I won't take much longer. I will finish here inshallah, unless there are any questions or any comments. We have a couple of minutes. Yes? We have time? 2 minutes? Inshallah. Any questions? Any? Yes. Yes.
And if somebody is willing to go for circumstances now, lottery, visa, etc. So what is the advice to the scholar? If somebody is mustaqim and money home, when they can't go, then he gets picked for the lottery. What happens?
Ahsan. So Hajj is wajib upon everybody at least once in their lifetime, Hajjatul Islam. And the conditions are whether to be able, in terms of the physical ability obviously, in terms of financial ability, in terms of not having some social restrictions, and not having other kinds of restrictions or obstacles. So one of the obstacles is to be able to logistically make it there, travel, get a visa. Okay. So nowadays they have this lottery system that they have introduced. I don't really understand how it works. Nevertheless, maybe they don't themselves, I don't know if they do, but they do a lot of things that they don't understand. Or maybe they have somebody is planning it for them, because that, generally speaking, they're not that intelligent. Somebody else plans for them, generally speaking, in any case. So somebody suggested or planned it for them. They have an agenda, maybe, I don't know what it is. Nevertheless, it is restrictive and people are not able to make it, or people are, it is not easy for them to make it. If somebody has the intention and makes the effort and cannot make it, there's no obligation on them. There's no, basically they have not fallen short of their duty. If they, God forbid, die before they actually made it, while they had that intention, they would not be considered one who owes it. Mustati' who doesn't go owes Hajj. It's owing on them. So somebody who was mustati' and never went, financially could go, socially was allowed or able to go and did not make it, they owe it. It's an owing that they owe. It's like a prayer that you didn't pray. But for those, it's not of that nature. So, yes.
I think really the question that I've done is that how come so many Muslims forgot about this? There was all is that, like, yes, even the Sunnis, they have their sources, they have it. Isn't that bad? Like, people don't remember it, people don't go back. I mean, whoever we talk nowadays, they have no clue about it.
Ghadir and yeah. There was definitely a strong fight against Ghadir and against what happened on the day of Ghadir. By immediately after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was that move immediately. There is a story that is, in fact, there is a riwayah of an individual who came and questioned it, and the ayat were revealed, and he was immediately punished because he denied what the Prophet had brought. سَأَلَ سَائِلٌ بِعَذَابٍ وَاقِعٍ, and that he came and denied that is from God, and told the Prophet that this is, a family thing that you have made, and so on. But besides that, immediately after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they had this plan of banning hadith, because Ghadir is hadith, and so that was part of the plan, basically, because hadith confirms. On the Thursday before the martyrdom of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he wanted to write, they banned it, and they said, "Hasbuna kitabullah." The Quran is enough. And then obviously after he departed, they said only Quran, no hadith. And anyone who would narrate, they would actually punish them. You're not allowed to narrate. We don't want hadith, only Quran. And their claim was that we will be divided with hadith, which is quite the opposite. So their plan was to any hadith in the virtues of Ahlul Bayt. And then throughout after a while, they could not say no hadith because it was very confusing. They could not understand many things without hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they had to bring hadith. But who is allowed to give hadith? And the way of the Khulafa and the way they accepted the hadith was simply to say, if you are a lover of Ali, if you're a Shia of Ali, not accepted automatically. Okay, and so what confirms that you are a Shia of Ali? If you're narrating about his virtues. It basically nullifies everything about Imam Ali alayhi salam. So if you narrate about the virtues of Imam Ali alayhi salam, you are considered now a Shia of Ali. If you're considered a Shia of Ali, you are non-authentic. Automatically you're excluded. So by doing that, they excluded most of the lovers and followers of Ahlul Bayt. Therefore, you'll find in the books, they have thousands of narrations, thousands, from individuals who hardly got to see the Prophet, and they narrate even from enemies. Believe it or not, they narrate from Umar ibn Sa'd. Umar ibn Sa'd, the man who stood and slaughtered or commanded for the slaughtering of the grandson of the Prophet, he is an authentic narrator. This is the sad reality that we're dealing with. Because what? Because he's authentic. He's some Sahabi, some Tabi'i. He's a Tabi'i and so on. And on the other hand, you'll have individuals around the Prophet from his family who there's nothing from them. Absolutely nothing or hardly anything from them. The criteria is simply, if you narrate in the virtues of Ali, you're excluded. So therefore, this is what, in fact, the hadith of Ghadir, one of the strong chains of narrators for it is the family. Some of the strongest narrators are the family themselves, because they cannot deny the pure Imams of Ahlul Bayt, their grandchildren and so on. So they were the authentic narrators of Al-Ghadir, and some of them, even in the female, Fatima al-Ma'suma salamullah alayha is one of the authentic narrators of Al-Ghadir, Hadith Al-Ghadir, and some of the family. But definitely a sad reality that the world still suffers from, the world of Islam and the world of humanity still suffers from the lack of knowledge of Ali. If only people knew the teachings and the beautiful characteristics of Imam Ali alayhi salam and put it into practice. Inshallah, with that we finish, and I ask mu'mineen and mu'minat to remember all the marhumeen, especially those who departed with the love of Ahlul Bayt, the love of the Prophet and his progeny, and taught us the love of Ahlul Bayt, the love of Imam Ali alayhi salam and his family. We remember them all with the recitation of Al-Fatiha ma'a salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.